Our top story, no end to the power tussle between the Delhi governor and the Kejriwal government in the national capital. The Aam Aadmi Party has knocked on the doors of the Supreme Court challenging the ordinance by the centre which takes away the power and control over the transfer and posting of bureaucrats from the government and gives it back to the LG. Now, the Delhi government has termed the ordinance unconstitutional and called it a direct attack on the democratic principles. The Aam Aadmi Party also claims that the ordinance was deliberately introduced when the Supreme Court was on a summer vacation. Now, meanwhile, the Aam Aadmi Party has said that they will burn copies of the ordinance next week at their party office. BJP has retorted, saying if Kejriwal wants to burn anything, he should burn his ego.
दिल्ली सरकार अध्यादेश जो केंद्र सरकार ला रही है ट्रांसफर पोस्टिंग को लेकर सुप्रीम कोर्ट पहुंच गई और दायर याचिका में उसने साफ कह दिया है कि ये एक असंवैधानिक प्रक्रिया है।
ये वो कह रहे हैं ना, सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाना तो सबका अधिकार है, कोई भी जा सकता है, उस पर मुझे टिप्पणी नहीं करनी है। लेकिन अरविंद केजरीवाल को इतनी छटपटाहट क्यों है? अगर अध्यादेश आया उसके पीछे का कारण क्या है, ऑर्डिनेंस के पीछे का कारण क्या है, वो जनता को कब बताएंगे? ये विपक्षी एकता को हमने देखा पटना में कलई खुलते हुए, ये कितनी एकता थी। और वो कौन है जिसे आप विपक्षी एकता कह रहे हैं? वो डर से जुटे हुए लोग हैं, वो डर बंधन है, वो बंधन योग्यता से नहीं है, सबके अपने अपने डर है।
All right, I have with me on the broadcast Kapil Sankhla, who is a Supreme Court lawyer, and Kapil Madan, who's also a lawyer with us on the broadcast. Many thanks for joining us here on Mirror Now. Let me go across to Mr. Sankhla first. Mr. Sankhla, what are your thoughts on this entire ordinance row which is taking place in the national capital?
You see, politics aside, let us look at the law. Can the central government is there a law to pass an ordinance? The simple answer is yes. It is there under Article 123. It's been challenged a number of times since 1970s. There was a challenge as far as whether the ordinance could bring in and nationalize banks. This was questioned. The Honorable Supreme Court stated that you have to show that there is an immediate requirement. So that is the first test. So if it has been able to show that there was an immediate requirement, then yes, the ordinance would be legal, would be applicable, and would have the effect of law. We all know, and this has already been submitted, that ordinances are like the law. They've been but they're not enacted by the parliament, but by the president. And then there is a requirement of 6 weeks and 6 months, etc., etc. We need not go there. But the power lies. And recently, we also know that there was an Honorable Supreme Court judgment as far as the income tax is concerned. There was an ordinance that came to be after the income tax authorities made some representation. So therefore, the law as it stays gives the power to bring about an ordinance where it is thought that there is an immediate requirement and there is no time for the parliament to sit. In this particular case, this is what is the stand. And therefore, let us see what the Honorable Supreme Court says. There would be two tests before which have to be met. One, whether it is immediately required, and whether there could have been some delay in as far as promulgating the ordinance is concerned, and secondly, whether there is a requirement to re-promulgate it on a number of occasions. Then it is said that then it is bypassing the democratic process. So let us wait and watch. But as far as the argument is concerned that the ordinance could not have been passed, that is actually an inaccurate statement of what the legal process is.
Absolutely, but the Aam Aadmi Party here is saying that it is impermissible for the legislature to overrule an SC decision.
That is exactly what I'm saying. That is the wrong argument that is being put by the political party. The law as it exists under the constitutional powers, the ordinance could have been passed and has been passed, and there are as passing of ordinance is concerned to bypass a judgment passed by the Honorable Supreme Court. I've already told you there is one of the income tax authority. There was one that was also challenged as far as the banking laws is concerned. So there are at least two judgments which we have where similar proposition was stated, and the Honorable Supreme Court in two other different occasions stated that one, what has to be seen is whether there was an immediate requirement or whether this process could have been stayed, and secondly whether when would the parliament sit, or whether you are re-promulgating it so as to bypass the the democratic process. So as far as the argument of Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, that this could not have been done and it is bypassing the Honorable Supreme Court order, that is the wrong argument that is being made by the Aam Aadmi Party.
Right. Let's also get in a word from Mr. Madan. Mr. Madan, what are your comments on this?
So I would just like to, supplement what Mr. Sankhla said. I think he very rightly, pointed out to the viewers that the government has to demonstrate that there is an imminent requirement. There is some sort of an urgency because of which this ordinance has been brought. And to my understanding, if you apply this test to the facts and circumstances of the case, there would be few important facts that would emerge. The first would be that it is a matter of fact that the government has already filed a review petition and, that is pending. Despite the fact that the review petition, which is filed by the government, which is the Union of India, and during its pendency, they have brought this ordinance, to my understanding, the only logical conclusion that could be drawn from here is that the attempt is to scuttle or to bypass the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court. There does not appear to be any other imminent reason because of which this ordinance have been passed. And if you look at the judgment of the Supreme Court, the reason why the judgment was premised on the fact that the Supreme Court was of the view that the elected government should be given a free hand, because if you don't give them the free hand, you can't seek accountability from the government. And it is Delhi, unlike the other union territory, they have their own legislative assembly, and therefore they are answerable to the people. And because of that, they should be given a free hand in terms of the federal structure that, on the basis of which, the entries have been segregated in state list, union list, and the concurrent list. To my understanding, it is the constitution judgment. It is the judgment given by the constitution bench. And my understanding of the situation is that the Aam Aadmi government is likely to succeed in challenging this ordinance.
Tell us that the ordinance is yet to be put up for vote in the parliament. What happens if the SC passes a decision favoring Aam Aadmi Party?
That recently in 2017, there were the 7 rows whether the Supreme Court can successfully take into consideration an ordinance passed and can challenge it or overrule it or say that it was passed in bad faith or question the timing, etc. And by majority judgment, the Honorable Supreme Court said, yes, we have the power to seek a challenge and to question an ordinance passed. This was also done in prior occasions. This was done way back in 2007 as well. But this judgment was Krishna Kumar Singh and others versus State of Bihar, 2017 judgment, where a similar situation arose. So the long and short of it was that the Supreme Court has the power, once an ordinance is passed, to see whether the ordinance has been passed in good faith, the timing of the ordinance, and to see whether there was an emergent situation why the ordinance could have been passed. And lastly, of course, to see whether it's been scuttling the judicial or the legal process or the democratic process, where the ordinance is being brought into effect time and again without it being tested in the parliament. So those are the tests that the Honorable Supreme Court would see this ordinance in the light of, not in the light of what the Aam Aadmi Party is saying that, oh, there was no power at all. So let us see what the Honorable Supreme Court says. The precedents are already there. Similar situations have already arose on prior occasions where the Honorable Supreme Court has tested the validity and the legality of the ordinances and passed necessary orders.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Sankhla, Mr. Madan, we'll have to really wait and watch what the Supreme Court essentially says on this matter. Thanks very much for joining us here on the broadcast.